Coming up on This Week in Radio Tech, we've got we got some people coming on the show.
Yes, sir.
Can you go get some folks?
Of course.
Brian Shea is our guest wrangler. He'll be right back with some good folks out here on This Week in Radio Tech.
This Week in Radio Tech is brought to you by Broadcast Supply Worldwide with a great selection, discount prices, and same-day overnight shipping at bswusa.com. By the new Ruby console from Lavo with AutoMix Smart Mixing. See Lavo in your future at lavo.com/TWiRT. And by Direct Current Broadcast e-newsletter. Get Direct Current in your inbox every Thursday with technical pointers putting you and your facility at an advantage.
And welcome into This Week in Radio Tech. I'm Kirk Harnack, your host. Delighted to be here. This is the show where we talk about everything from the microphone to the light bulb at the top of the tower. And we're near the top of the tower today. We are at the Telos Alliance in Cleveland, Ohio. And a bang-up lineup of guests to talk to us here and find out some cool information from on the show today. So welcome in. My usual co-host, Chris Tobin, is here. Chris, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. It's good to see some regular faces and some friends and the new faces. So it sounds like you guys are having a good time. Sort of like what they're doing in Philadelphia.
We are, and Chris, I got to warn you, today we have a lineup that's just crazy, just full of people. I paid a guy to go bring people in, so he's working hard. And so, Chris, if you want to get a word in edgewise, buddy, you just butt in. I mean, just butt the heck in, okay? Will you do that?
No problem. I can do that.
Okay.
Oh, sure. It's like riding the subway. Not a problem.
All right. Yes. Like riding the subway. All right. Our show, this is our 382nd episode of This Week in Radio Tech. As I said, I'm live here in Cleveland, Ohio at the Telos Alliance, the world headquarters for that. And we have some amazing guests, and we'll be introducing them here in just, let's you know, this guy. This is Frank Foti, who used to be the CEO of our company, and he's sidestepping now. He's kind of give us a little fake here. Frank, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, Kirk.
And you hired somebody to do the heavy lifting.
Well, you know, I guess you could use the term hired. We had the pleasure of having a wonderful individual join our organization. I like to look at it in the following way, that our company was going at such a frenetic pace that I took some time last year, forced myself to kind of look at the company from, you know, they use that phrase, from the 35,000 foot level. And what I saw was that we're going in a lot of different directions, doing a lot of things, growing quite a bit. And the analogy I'll make is that where my forte is doing audio algorithms, you know, and the design of audio algorithms. But the company is really an amalgamation of many types of algorithms. Some are technical, some are audio, and some are business. And when I looked at my toolbox, I think you could probably make a case that I've learned a thing or two about the audio side. You know, the business side, I've learned a thing or two, but my abilities are not the same as they are in the audio world. So in having some discussion with people here at the company and some trusted advisors, I made the decision that, you know what, there's people out there that are going to have they're going to have abilities today that I don't have, or I may never have. So we're very fortunate to connect up with this gentleman, Tom Swidarski, who at one time was CEO of Diebold Corporation, the people who make the ATM bank machines worldwide. And Tom is in a wonderful place in his life where he's been basically getting involved with companies like ours in a way to help them take the next step in that business direction. Or, you know, he possesses that business algorithm ability that I don't. So two things happen. The company's already a lot stronger with Tom on board. And two, it allows you guys to kick me more into the steam-powered man cave, you know, because we do sell loud.
Yeah, yes, we do. Well, while you've been spending time as CEO in the past few years, you've had a team that's been doing some amazing work too. Now you get to spend more time with that team.
Well, more time with the team, more time looking at opportunities going forward that encompass everything that we do and then some. You know, in the last couple of years, we've started some initial work in some areas that are broadcast related and some areas that are not broadcast related. You know, last year, I had the opportunity to do some work with some pretty well-known people in the music industry. We're sharing some of our sound processing or audio application techniques with people like Gary Katz, who produced Steely Dan, Hugh Padgham, who was very involved with the Police and Genesis and people of that nature, and so much so that I was able to have a 45-minute session with Giles Martin at Abbey Road last fall, talking about some audio applications that we're working on, and had an excellent meeting with Giles, and actually made a good connection with him. So these are some of the things that I'll be able to focus more on now that were a bit more challenged in the past.
So we can look forward to some interesting technologies for audio in the next year or two here.
Well, maybe, Kirk. Well, maybe we'll do this. This Balzini business. We want to talk about algorithms. We got the concrete algorithm. We got there's Daniel here might be bringing in some plastics from the Far East. So, I just want to say that to all our competitors out there, if we're going to keep chasing the bar, we are the bar. So there you have it.
Oh, gosh, crack me up, man. Frank, thank you so much for being on the show.
See, now they're going to kick me off. It's like, we got out of them what we wanted to. Now get the hell out of here. And I guess I can say that because we're not over the air, I guess. But so it's like, get him out of here because these guys got,
Hey, well, before you go, is there anything that you want our audience of 3,000 rabid engineering fans? I mean, we got some great engineers out there in the
I know
audience.
we do.
Yeah. Anything you want to tell them one-on-one right now? Like any, I don't know. Watch out.
You know what? The best thing I can tell you, Kirk, is this organization, I'll tie it into my passion for railroading. We come down the main line with the subtlety of the best, streamliner. And it's like we sock you in the nose and tell you I love you at the same time, which is how Roger Daltrey used to describe the music of The Who. Mm-hmm. For those that are probably going, oh, what are they working on? There's always something going on here, This week, you guys are probably going to be talking about, based on the reasons why there's a lot that's going on here at Telos here in Cleveland this week. We were, some of the people were saying to me, well, so what can we look forward to processing wise? We have the big show coming up here in not too long. And it's not so much, I know others are going to go, well, we've got a little box and we're going to do this. And now we can do that. With us, it's not that. It's all about a migration. Mm-hmm. It's all about, can you say the ether? It's all about, making radio much more alive and dynamic, and how the infrastructure operates, of which audio processing is a part of. So, if you're watching and wondering, is Omnia working on little things, sonically? The simple answer is yes. Are we continuing to push the bar? Yes. We've done some demonstrations with an audio enhancement technology known as FIDEF, mm-hmm. which is very unique. It's a way to further sweeten audio as you get ready to process it and put it over the air, because everyone's looking for that last little bit of detail or quality or modulation. Well, we've all got the same level of modulation, but loudness and, in their level of modulation. And no, I'm not just trying to promote loudness only, gang, but, we never stop. And when I've looked back at, the people that are chasing us, like me too. You look and it's like, what did Omni do? What did Telos do? I got to do mine now too. Good luck, guys. You want to do it. You want to race. I will go to anywhere in the world with any one of our audio processors, and we'll shred anyone else, because it's not about graphics. It's not about dancing lights. It's about how the thing sounds. And as of yet, and Omni is more than 20 years old, and I've been doing this as a business coming up on 30 years. I have yet to have somebody get me in a room and go, oh yeah, your product doesn't do the following sonically. And until that happens, I guess, we're not like people that go in the Super Bowl and they want to call them the greatest of all time, yet they fumble the ball with the game on the line. We go to the Super Bowl, we win. So Kirk's going, get him the hell out of here. Kirk, thank you, and Chris, for the opportunity to, share some fun and hopefully some exciting stuff with your wonderful audience.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, I've got two guests right here. This fella right here from Beijing, China. He's going to talk about what audio over IP and other things are doing in China. And Cam Eicher is here to talk about some amazing technology that we're all going to be interested in, and I am right now going forward. So, yeah.
Well, it's not fake news, and if you do think it's fake news, it's probably from the Russians. So,
we've had a Russian on the show before.
We did?
Yeah.
Okay. Today you had a Sicilian.
So. Yeah. We'll be right back. You don't go away. We got more coming up on This Week in Radio Tech.
There has probably never been a better time in history to buy a new radio mixing console. Today's consoles are more sophisticated than ever, with more features and functions than you can shake a stick at. But have you noticed how complicated they are? There's a sea of knobs and switches and displays and buttons. Some of them look like you might need a pilot's license to do your show. Well, a board doesn't have to be complicated to be powerful. Just look at the new Ruby mixing surface from Lavo. The first thing you notice is how smooth and streamlined it is. Ruby has lots of cool tech, but what it doesn't have is that confusing ocean of buttons that clutter things up. Now, we all know that there are some console features the jock only uses once in a while. So why dedicate controls to them? Ruby fixes this problem by moving those once-in-a-blue-moon controls to a touch-sensitive, customizable GUI that happily shares screen space with your other studio software, helping you fight control room clutter. Thanks to this design innovation, talent that use Ruby produce smoother shows with less errors. Controls that are used the most fall naturally to hand, while functions that rarely need adjustment are easily controlled with just a couple of clicks in the context-sensitive GUI. And Ruby has cool features you won't find on other boards, like Auto Mix, an intelligent gain writing function that guarantees the perfect mix for multi-mic morning shows and call-in segments. Dual mode snapshots that instantly switch the motorized faders between on-air and production modes, and enough DSP and I/O options to make even your pro sound pals green with envy. And because quality is as important to Lavo as it is to you, every console is proudly built to fanatically precise standards at Lavo's own factory in Germany. If you're ready to declutter your control room, do yourself a favor. Check out the new Ruby and the other cool Lavo radio tech at www.lawo.com/TWiRT.
And thanks to Lavo for sponsoring This Week in Radio Tech. Hey, you're watching episode 382. It's Kirk Harnack in Cleveland, Ohio, at the headquarters of the TELUS Alliance. Frank Foti joined us for our first segment. Chris Tobin is along here. He's going to try to get a word in edgewise from time to time. And I want to introduce you to my friend and longtime colleague, and that is Daniel Wang. Hi, Daniel. How are you?
Hi, Kirk.
I'm sorry. I need to turn your microphone up. Duh. There you go.
Hi, Kirk. I'm doing very well.
Now, you live in China. In what city?
In Beijing.
Now, that's a huge city.
Yeah, I grew up there.
By 300 million people or something.
Yes.
A lot.
Yeah, 20 million.
20 million. Okay. I have gotten a cab ride in Beijing. I swear it was 2 hours to get somewhere.
Yes, that is a big city, especially in rush hours. You stay hours on the street.
Yeah. So talk to me. You visit radio and TV stations in Beijing.
Yes.
And some surrounding cities, probably.
Yes.
Yeah? So tell me, I mean, I've been to some studios, but just a brief visit. Talk to me about broadcasting technology in Beijing. Is it a lot like we have in the U.S., or are a lot of things completely different? What's your impression?
Yes. Go to the detail, like some codecs. Maybe we use different codecs as the codecs being used in the US. But basically, the hot topic right now in China is the audio over IP.
Oh, it is now too? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we started promoting live wire technology in that market since 5-6 years ago. But by that time, people are they are not very interested, or they're not trust the technology which is reliable enough for them to use in the daily broadcast.
Well, let's tell why. My visit to China National Radio, CNR, the impression I received was that a lot of pressure is on the engineer for a perfect broadcast all the time. If there is some dead air, if there is an equipment failure, this can be pretty bad for the engineer, or maybe his job.
Oh, yeah. That because of all the stations are government owned, so keep the signal on the air is the top priority for them.
Now, I was told that the stations were government owned, and yet you have a variety of formats. You have, dance type formats, and you have top 40 type of formats. You have talk formats.
Yeah.
So you have. I think of government radio, and I'm thinking of it's all the same. But no, it's like commercial radio. It's just owned by government.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah. So for
okay.
the big stations, they have more than 10 different types of FM frequencies on the air, from news, traffic, and music. All different type of.
But this idea that reliability is key, and therefore, I guess engineers like to stick with technology that they know.
They are familiar with, yes.
Yes. So how are you persuading people? How do you get them to move into audio over IP?
Oh, it takes some time. They started doing the first trial of audio over IP since 2008, when Beijing hosted the Olympic Games. So they used the audio over IP as a transmission channel from the IBC back to their main facility, and that they see the advantage because they cannot make anything else work in that short period of time.
Oh,
yeah. So they transmit like 40 channels from IBC to their main facility, and all the other region radio stations transmit the signal from there.
Wow. Okay. So this gave like a proving ground. Hey, if it works for the Olympics.
Yes, and then they bring the technology back to their facility, and they're using that as the backup system. Not the main. They still keep the traditional AES as their main system, but now they have AOIP as their backup.
So at some point, will they become comfortable enough with AOIP so that is the main, and maybe AES is the backup?
Oh, yes, that is very possible because currently when the radio stations are trying to design or build the new facility, they think about AOIP.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very big step.
So what about the infrastructure, like from the telephone company? Who's providing connectivity between cities or within a city? How do you get, or can you get really good internet? Can you get really good point-to-point connectivity?
Oh, yes, we have really good internet infrastructure in China. So the speed of 4G is popular in all the major cities.
Okay.
So you got good connection.
So our broadcast stations in China, are they doing live outside broadcasts, remote broadcasts?
Oh, yes, they do a lot.
Okay. So we were talking also about audio processing in China. And when I visited China, audio processing was not so terribly important, I think, but maybe it's become more important.
Oh, yes, because in the old days, when people built up a radio station and they bought an audio processor as a commodity, they think that is part of the system, but they never think about the audio quality. They are not purchasing an audio processor to improve the quality. But now it's totally different. In the cities where there are a lot of competition, when people set up their audio processor, they will really pay attention and fine tuning the quality. So I think Omnia step into that market, people are starting to aware of the audio quality is so important.
So interesting. So I'm guessing ultimate loudness is maybe not the key priority, but making sure the quality is good.
Oh, that is varies between cities. Some cities there are very intense loudness competition.
Okay.
So many frequencies they are overmodulated, but in the major cities is okay.
Wow. Okay. All right. So in China, what if I walked into a Chinese radio station? What equipment would I be likely to see? Would I see some Studer consoles, or what kind of digital consoles would I see, or it's still analog consoles?
No. Majority of them are using the digital consoles, and all the major brands like Studer, Lavo, DHD, Axia, they're all there.
Okay.
Yeah, so very popular.
And I was talking with someone a few years ago about radio in the smaller towns in China. How is that? I never went to a small town, only to Beijing and Shanghai. So what is radio like in a small town?
Yeah, they have a basic setup, but they still have all the important pieces. And more exciting is that starting from this year, or actually the standard published last year, but starting from this year, when people building the new FM transmission, we also have the digital radio as well.
What kind of digital radio? Is it DAB or HD radio or what?
None of them. Yeah, we call it CDR, which is China Digital Radio. It's a homegrown standard.
Okay.
Yeah, and it started getting popular.
So it takes a new radio to pick this up? Yeah.
Yes, you need a new radio device, but in terms of the transmission, it's very similar to HD radio. So we put the digital signal along the traditional analog FM.
So it's in the FM band.
Yes, it's in the FM band, but
And
between
the analog stations.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. So how do you see, as cars are becoming more and more popular in Beijing, do you see digital radios in the dashboard or internet to the dashboard becoming popular so that people are going to be listening to streaming? Or I guess what I'm asking, analog FM, digital FM CDR, or streaming, which is going to be the king eventually?
Oh, currently for the car radio experience, FM is still the king. Yeah, FM is still a dominant market. Because of the new radio of the digital format, you have to buy a new device, and that is started but not getting very popular yet.
Wow. Okay. So what are you looking forward to soon in technology? In other words, what is hot on your radar when you visit radio stations? What are you really talking to them about?
The true advantage of audio over IP.
Okay.
Yeah, now everyone talks about they do audio over IP, but there is a slightly difference. You use audio over IP everywhere compared to use audio over IP only as a transmission channel from point A to point B. And there are a lot of great information shared here, and with the full audio over IP system, there are a lot of things you can do which you cannot with the traditional digital system or the other audio over IP solutions.
Cool. Daniel, I appreciate you very much coming on the show. I hope I get to visit you next time I come to Beijing. We can spend some time together. That would be awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Kirk.
Okay,
thank you, Chris.
Thank you. All right. Hey, Chris, did you have any question for Daniel before he goes?
No. He explained everything just as I understand it from folks I've talked to also. So no, it sounds really good, and I'm glad to hear things are moving forward. And loudness is not everything. It's quality and just being present. So if it's a little loud, so be it.
Well, I'm sure it's improved from when I heard it, 10 years ago or so. Things are getting better, quality-wise. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Good deal. Hey, Daniel, thanks again for coming in, and we'll see you. Let's bring Cam Eicher in. And while there's kind of trading places here, I'll tell you, I got to go to the Forbidden City area of Beijing, right? And I went through there with our Chinese dealer, and it was a hot day, and I got through the Forbidden City, and I'm hot. I'm kind of, I wish I'd have a refreshment or something. And there were ladies out there selling popsicles. I'm thinking,
nice.
Oh, and they had just fresh out of the freezer, cold boxes of popsicles, and they're selling them for, I don't know, I think 8 yuan a piece. That was about I don't know,
3 cents,
or maybe 1 yuan. I don't know. It was not. They were cheap. I mean, I'll take 5. But no, I bought one, opened it up, and it was this beautiful lime green, and I'm ready for the citrusy, even if it's a fake lime, I don't care. It's just this fantastic lime green popsicle, and I'm so ready, and I'm salivating, and I put it in my mouth, and it's not lime.
Was it durian?
It was green bean.
Ooh.
It was a vegetable popsicle. Which it was good, but it wasn't what I was expecting. It's like picking up a glass that you think is Sprite and it's water.
Well, I'll tell you, if you guys want an experience, check out the Kit Kat selection that you get if you ever have the opportunity to visit Japan. Oh. Japan is the king of Kit Kat bars. You will find Kit Kat flavors that you couldn't even dream up. And some of them are actually quite good. My favorite happens to be the strawberry cheesecake flavor of Kit Kat.
I didn't give Cam a proper introduction. This is my buddy. Actually, this is my boss, Cam Eicher. Cam is director of everything here, right?
Well, a couple things anyway.
Okay.
So I run the sales team for Telos.
And I met Cam. I met you years ago when you were working with Logitech.
And maybe even before that,
I was
working with Harris Allied.
And, that's right.
You were even a customer of mine with Harnack Engineering back in the day.
Yep. So I remember that one of the things I really appreciate about Cam is that Cam has a way of explaining technology in a way that makes sense, and it's compelling. And I mean, after you talk to Cam about some tech, you're left with this dilemma. How could I not do this? So
Telos makes that easy.
Hey, we got a couple minutes for our next commercial break. So let's talk about a couple of technologies that are hot on our radar that radio stations are adopting, and the more people understand it, the more that it's available, more people understand that it's available, the more uptake there is.
Well, I'll tell you, Kirk, it's all about audio over IP. That's the way that everything is going these days. As Daniel said, from China to Dubuque, we're looking at audio over IP. And the fundamental, advantages that it brings to a facility just by nature of the fact that everything is now data and everything is available in so many different ways. You can do things that you never dreamed possible in an analog world. It's really exciting.
One of the things that we learned this week, Cam, and maybe you can address this even though it wasn't your presentation, was some of the things that our partner Broadcast Bionics is doing that are possible only when absolutely every signal in the station is in IP, is on the network, is on the wire, as they say. What kind of, some people do a little bit of IP here, a little bit of IP there, and they have little islands of non-IP stuff. And that's okay. I mean, that's getting the foot in the water. But what benefit accrues to a station, and I know this because my stations are, but what benefits accrue when absolutely everything is on the network?
So when everything is IP, you've broken it out of its shell. It's no longer locked inside somebody's proprietary box. Now, maybe their proprietary box is really, really good, and maybe it does what it's supposed to do phenomenally well. But the challenge is that's all it does. It was built to do something, and that's it. So what we have when we move into this audio over IP foundation is now things are inside the network, and everything's available via that Ethernet switch, that Cisco switch that's sitting in your rack, now has unlocked all the capability of your audio and your data that's running around your plant. So if you think about that, you've broken it out of its shell. So you have all these audio channels that used to be locked inside your audio console, even if it's audio over IP at the edge. Once it gets back to that proprietary box, whether it's a console or a routing matrix, it's stuck in that box. But as long as it stays audio over IP, you can break it out of that box, send it different places, do things with it, extract it, manipulate it, put it back inside the box, and you have a flexibility that's just not possible without that core being audio over IP.
So I guess one way that I've looked at this, and back when LiveWire became available and I was showing it to a lot of SBE groups and engineers and directors of engineering, showing, hey, this is the next technology and you're going to want to go with this. And what I found was for a lot of people who went with AOIP, and even people go with it now, they find it's very serendipitous. They don't know everything that it can do when they put it in their plant. But then they start finding out, hey, I can do this. Hey, you never told me I can do X. Well, I actually didn't think about that. I'm glad you figured it out. Can I share that with other people?
Well, that's a great point, Kirk, because what you find out is you kind of know what you know. And when you're shopping for a new audio console, you've got a 1970s, what do we want to pick out of the dustbin back in the back? A
CTEC console.
There you go, right? Or an Autogram. They're not around anymore, so we can talk about them, right? So you bring out that Autogram console, and what you're trying to do is replicate the workflow of the unit that you're replacing. And so you're thinking very much about, oh, I need to do these particular functions. I need to have a few pots for my audio. I need to have a few pots for my automation system, maybe a phone hybrid here, a couple of codecs, a couple of remote lines. And you design your system and you build it very much to replace the thing that you're pulling out.
Okay.
And sometimes you don't step back and realize all the other functionality that might be available just because it's audio over IP. So it does all the things your old box did, of course, otherwise you wouldn't have bought it.
Right.
But it does a whole lot more. That it's only when you start thinking about, maybe I could route something a little differently. Maybe I could swap studios from point A to point B. Maybe there's other features hidden inside this that allows me to add something like, say, an intercom system to my facility just by adding a panel in a rack and not having to make any other changes.
And plugging it into the network, and bam, now you have an intercom.
And there it is.
And we heard from a guy today, Dan McQuillan, who's been on the show 2 or 3 times now, and believe me, he'll be on again, because this visionary as to what are we trying to do here? And here I'm showing I got a little bit of a console right here, and this is great. It's an AOIP console, but you know what? It in a sense, it does the same thing that a console from 1927 did.
Well, and
it takes inputs, puts them on buses, gives you outputs.
Well, this is correct. And it was designed that way on purpose, because that's still a job that broadcasters need to do.
Right.
And Kirk mentioned that, part of my career was back in the Logitech days down in Houston, and they make this, great analog console. And then they moved into a router-based console. And now they've moved into consoles that have audio over IP inside them. And they've made this progression. But the slideshow and the presentation that I would give back in the Logitech day was very much exactly that, a picture of a 1920s console, and then you could go to a 1950s console, and then you could go to a 1990 console. They all really did the same thing, and they behaved the same way, and fundamentally they haven't changed in 70 years. So when you move into this audio over IP world, we still need to mix audio. We still need to take audio, put it on buses. We still need to create mix minuses. But the guys at Bionic said, man, we can do something else with this. Think about this for a minute. All the audio is already there. It's already packetized. It's already running around a network.
Okay.
What if we could look at those channels individually and do something with them?
Okay.
So what they realized...
So all the mic channels exist on the network individually. They're all there if you want to use them.
Right.
The console does use them when you mix them together, but they're on the network.
But they're also on the network.
Individually.
So if you think about the way networks work, all that traffic is there. Multiple people can see these channels at the same time because the audio is not, again, it's escaped out of its wire. You're not looking at this microphone audio that's stuck inside an XLR connector, that's stuck inside a piece of Belden wire that goes right into the back of your console, and it can't ever escape. Now it's packets on a network that are floating around in the cloud or in the ether or wherever you want to put them. So we're able to see that data from a lot of different places. And we call it data as opposed to audio because that's really what it is at this point, and it helps people envision what they might be able to do.
Okay. All right. So Dan gave us a little vision that I thought was pretty compelling. So what if the morning team walks into their studio and they walk in there and there isn't a console there? But they walk in and using standard technology, your Walgreens store is using it. You walk in and beaconing lets the system know that, hey, Cam just walked in with his iPad.
Well, this is what's really interesting. This technology is all around us in use in so many other industries. We just haven't put 2 and 2 together to allow us to use it inside our radio studio. So if you happen to be the owner of a cell phone or a couple of versions of Microsoft computers, they know who you are. When you open up your laptop and you wake it up, it knows that you're Kirk. You don't have to type in your password. Your computer wakes up and starts showing you your email. So why is it that today's radio studios, we have to wait? They all have cameras. We're doing camera switching and things like that. Why is it that when the jock walks in, they have to hit the profile button to be able to tell the console that it's time for the morning show?
So the vision is that if there is a console, or if you walk in and you've got your iPad and you walk in the room and guess what? Beacons talk to each other, shake hands.
Right.
Your console app opens up. And your console app doesn't have 72 faders on it. It's got the 4 faders you need.
Exactly.
And then your co-hosts show up and they open their iPads or whatever they have. And on their app, it opens up with 1 fader and a cough button.
Exactly. And the things that are important to them.
And the system knows, okay, Cam is there, Kirk is there, Sally's there, Mike is there, but Steve isn't here today. And so it knows not to do any camera shots of Steve's position because there's nobody there.
Or how about this?
Okay.
If Steve's not there and Mary is filling in for Steve, the camera knows that, wait a minute, that's not Steve. That's Mary. It'll open up her profile without having to do anything different at all.
So this is an interesting, and there's a phrase that you might hear on down the road. I don't know if you will. And the phrase is cushions and daylight. And it's because there's a big broadcaster over in Europe across the pond that when they asked the talent, what do you want from your studio? And the answer was cushions and daylight. In other words, we want to do a radio show without all the trappings of what we've had for the last 70 years to do radio shows.
Well, and this is the challenge because most of us come from this engineering background.
Exactly.
So we want lights, we want buttons, we want faders, we want cool tech.
We want stuff that we know how to do and other people maybe don't.
That's right. Look at our show, right?
Yeah.
This week in radio, you know, right. So radio tech. So what do we try to do is we get attracted by cool, shiny things. We get attracted by the technology. And sometimes we forget that at the other end of that is going to be a person.
Exactly.
And if you think of it kind of the way I think of like my mom trying to use the computer, right? They like all the benefits of the technology. They love being able to Skype with the grandkids, but don't ask them to try to set it up. Don't ask them to try to use it. If that call doesn't make by them hitting the button, you're not going to talk that weekend.
Chris Tobin, I have a goal. And the goal, Chris Tobin, is that within 5 years, we change the name of this podcast to This Week in cushions and daylight.
There you go.
It's not difficult to do. We could just pick one episode and do it and see if it catches on.
Well, yeah, and it's such a great.
Cam is absolutely right.
Well, it's interesting because this study that Kirk is talking about, they asked the technical team, and the technical team went to the radio operators, and the radio operators came back with this cushions and daylight is what they want. But what was interesting is they went back and they said, well, wait a minute, we're the technical team. Mm-hmm. We're not the interior decorator team or the ambiance team. So think about from a technical standpoint, what would you like in your next facility and what would you like in your studio? And so they went back, as Dan would say, and they smoked some cigarettes and had some Chianti because they're creative types now. Mm-hmm. And then they came out of that smoke-filled room and they said, we've got it. And the solution, they want technology to work. Mm-hmm. So again, it wasn't about features and buttons and faders and LEDs. It wasn't even about audio over IP, because at the end of the day, once you've installed that console, and quite frankly, even before you've installed that console, the operators don't know it's AOIP, nor do they probably care.
Right.
They just want to be able to do their job and have it be reliable and have the technology work for them as opposed to against them.
The things that we do in radio, even in a complicated radio show, are all pretty predictable. I mean, it doesn't necessarily take a really big console with a whole bunch of knobs on it to accomplish that if the technology behind that is kind of smart. And we have the ability now to move in that direction. I mean, nobody's exactly there yet, but we have the ability to move in that direction and get the technology smart so that it knows what we want to do.
Exactly. And that's why audio over IP as a foundation is so important, is because it frees the ability of other pieces to look inside your facility and realize what's happening, and being able to control things, route things, change things, all based on the fact that you've got this framework that allows other devices to reach in and help you run your facility in a smarter way.
Hey, we got to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors at Broadcast Supply Worldwide. And when we come back, I wonder if, let's see how much time we got. Okay. We have enough time to chat for just a minute about a tablet kind of technology that is now available in other places. And people who watch this podcast have probably only seen it if they went to IBC. But it'll be shown a lot more at NAB this year. But maybe you can give us a little preview.
Oh, of course. Be happy to.
Hey, our show's brought to you by Broadcast Supply Worldwide. Let's hear from them and be right back.
Hello, I'm Frank Furter. As you know, week after week since 1973, it's been BSW's honor selling products to broadcasters worldwide for the best possible prices and speedy, zippy delivery. How do we do it? Let's show you the magic.
Welcome to the fictitious BSW Sale Factory. This is where all the products that are put on sale are staged and, once ordered, are placed on high-speed conveyors.
The Henry Engineering 6-Mix 6-Channel Broadcast Console. 10 inputs and 6 channels for $5.95. Over $550 off. Now, back to the factory.
No other sale factory in the world uses such amazing technology. Here, a BSW-trained computer technician at work. Looks like he's adding that Wi-Fi that we've been hearing so much about. Great job, Billy. See? You turn the knobs and then BSW exclusive deals pop out. It's that easy. See, Billy?
Interested in podcasting or internet radio? BSW's Going Pro Kit Dual with PR40 microphones will have you broadcasting in style on the WWWs in no time. Only $12.69. Now, back to the factory.
At the BSW Sale Factory, workers are on double speed to route your emails and direct your calls to our happy sales representatives.
Introducing the BSW Orban Demo Program. Want to hear what the best processing in the business sounds like before you change lives with its amazing sound? Call BSW today and ask for a demo on Orban processing. Now back to the BSW Sale Factory.
Operating a sale factory requires exact timing and product planning to make sure the products you want to buy are priced low and ready for immediate shipment. On behalf of the entire BSW staff, thank you for watching, and don't forget to buy stuff.
Hey, we're back on This Week in Radio Tech. Thanks to Broadcast Supply Worldwide for sponsoring the show. And remember, you can order as late as like 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And if they have it in their warehouse in Columbus, Ohio, just down the road from here, then they can pop it on the plane and it can be to you tomorrow in most places. So, wow. Yeah, I'm kind of last minute, Kirk. You know, I think I need an equipment rack tomorrow. So,
that's a lot to get overnighted. Man, those
yeah,
things are big.
I know. It kind of doubles the price. It sure does. All right. Hey, you're watching This Week in Radio Tech, episode 382. I'm Kirk Harnack, along with Chris Tobin in New York, and also Cam Eicher is here. Cam is a sales director for the TELUS Alliance. What, for radio products or for
all of them?
For everything. Absolutely everything.
If you want it, I can figure out how to get it to you.
And so Cam's got experience in broadcast. You were on the air, right?
I was.
A long time ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah. Rock and roll.
I was only like 6, I think.
So, but you have been in engineering. You've been close to engineers for years, so you really know how to paint a picture and how to match somebody's need with what the equipment is going to make that happen. Whether it's you that can help them or not. You know, you're perfectly willing to send people other places.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the goal. Is that the technology that exists today, engineers don't have as much time to dig into it and really learn it. They're responsible for more. They've got less staff. They've got longer hours and more headaches, and there's just not the ability to really dig deep into some of these products. So you've got to be able to do a good job of explaining why your products might be a good fit, or as you said, or not.
So we were talking about the studio with cushions and daylight, or in other words, a studio that becomes more easy to operate. And we've taken a really good step into that with a product called IP Tablet. Can you give us a bit of the technical or the operational vision of what this means?
So IP Tablet is a product that started out as a tablet application, actually a Windows application, so running on a Windows tablet, and it's since expanded to really anything that can run on a touchscreen in a studio. So the real advantage of this product is, again, it takes the tactile control away from the fixed hardware. So just like using audio over IP allows the audio to escape out of the wire that it's in and be available, the IP tablet opens up and unlocks the capability of your hardware in ways that maybe the hardware doesn't allow you to do it.
So what I heard recently, and one thing that if you're buying a new audio console, whether it's ours or anybody else's, you got to kind of figure out, how many faders do I need? And these days, you probably need fewer than you used to need because they can be rearranged, remapped quickly. But let's say that 11 and a half months out of the year, you get by fine with 16 faders, but then it's fundraiser time or it's high school sports time and you're running 2 different games one on your AM, one on your FM on the same console, which I've done, and you don't have enough faders. Well, a software app can unlock faders that are in your engine that you don't have hardware for.
Exactly.
So you got more faders now on the same logical console.
Exactly. So the hardware has inherent limitations because the manufacturer has decided this is how many buttons you need, this is how many buses you have, this is how many faders you have. And maybe when the product was introduced, that's all that existed. But because so many of these products now have a software core, they get updated. So if you think about this like any iPhone, let's say, you buy it 1 year, and then 6 months later, they release a software update, and now magically you have a mapping program inside of it, or you have a better camera, or you have something else. So audio consoles are like that as well, where they start out with a feature set, and for somebody that might have bought a Fusion console from Axia 5 years ago, this week they would open up their update and find out that their console now does auto mixing, because it arrives as a software update, and it extends the functionality of what that hardware was originally designed to do. So IP Tablet is kind of the same idea, where you can access different features, different functionality that's always been available as part of the engine and the infrastructure, but this allows you to rearrange the hardware, consolidate the hardware, do things that might not be possible based upon the physical characteristics of the board that's in front of you.
So I saw a demo this week of, and this was shown at IBC, but I really couldn't get a good look at it. Let's say a typical show, you might actually only use 6 faders of your 16 fader console. You might actually only use about 6 of them. So you can build a console on a screen, right? On a big Dell multi-touch touchscreen. You can have those 6 important faders. You can have your station website or your traffic cam or an outdoor weather cam, whatever HTML you want to show. You can have your automation system showing there, thereby reducing the number of screens that you need in your studio. And you can even control codecs and phone calls.
Well, and this is what's great, is that every operator that comes in needs something potentially a little bit different based upon either the program or the day part or how they interact with the hardware. So just as you mentioned remapping the console with a profile that somebody comes in, you're still constrained to the physical hardware. Maybe this is a morning show and we're going to have 5 mics and 3 phone callers, and then in the afternoon you rearrange those faders so that you have music and satellite feeds, and the console can remap that way. But with something like IP tablet, your console becomes infinitely remappable. So at this point, as exactly like you were saying, we put the faders in the same work surface as we put the automation system, and your social media feeds can go in there, your remote codecs can go in there, your microphone processing can go in there. And for operators that don't need all that, they don't see it.
Okay. And then you can, because this thing is connected with IP, and we're not putting audio in and out of this device. This is all control and display data. That means that the bandwidth requirements are modest, and you can go take it to a different room, to a different studio, to the break room, to your house, to the ball game, to the Ford dealer.
Exactly.
And you can have the whole radio station running. There's your automation. There's your faders. There's your phone callers. And you can take it all with you.
This is exactly right. And this is the game changer for these products, is that now you're able to take the functionality that you need and sculpt it for the job that you're trying to do. So those operators that wanted cushions and daylight, they're also saying, man, I wish I had a button to do this. And back in the 80s, what did we do? We took the console, we drilled a hole in a module, we put a big orange button in there to do whatever it was, and then a whole mess of wires and relays and GPIOs to make something happen. Now you're clicking a mouse and moving around some data packets. And
I should point out that you may be thinking, well, hey, I can run a Windows computer right now and have a remote access, and I can open this window and do this and this. I can have different windows and effectively get, Kirk, what you just said. But what we're seeing now, and what this IP tablet is, it's specifically designed. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to open a bunch of windows or browser windows or application windows and line them all up so they all look pretty. No, this is all one application. And you can pre-build it for different talent, for different purposes, but this is all just one thing, and it reduces the controls down to the things you need. It gets rid of typically EQ controls, and it just has the stuff you need on it to do a radio show.
Well, and the idea is that this consolidates the control. So one of the differences between IP tablet and some other products out there is this allows us to control not only the console, but other devices. You mentioned the phone system or the audio processor or your codecs. All of that control is now available on the same application. So you're not running the remote control for the console and then another PC with the control for the automation system and then another PC looking at your mic processing and trying to bring all that together. It's all consolidated in one very simple, easy to use view with just the controls that the operator needs.
So if this sounds interesting, and I got a little preview of this week, but at the NAB show, if you're going to be there, you want to come see this kind of technology. Just amazing stuff. Also, I alluded to the Cushions and Daylight guy, Dan McQuillan with Broadcast Bionics. Their booth is right next to the TELUS Alliance booth. So you can see this kind of visionary technology implementation at the NAB show at our booth.
We're excited to be there.
Good deal.
Can't wait.
We have a new technology applied to an old use, and that is intercom.
Well, right. This is also really exciting. So it just sounds like we're repeating ourselves because we just keep talking about audio over IP.
I know.
But one of the great benefits is that once you realize that all of your audio is just data on the network, it becomes really easy to access that audio for other purposes. So what if I told you that when you bought this audio console, you got a free intercom system? Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The reason that comes along is that you've already built up this audio infrastructure with all these data packets running around. And if you think about what is intercom, intercom is really 3 things. You're talking, And so we're sending audio. And if you think about radio studios or us standing here, we already have that device. We're sitting here with a microphone in the studio or a microphone in front of us. So we can check that box. We have to receive the audio. So you've got to be able to hear somebody talking to you in another room. So we've got part 2, send and receive audio. And then you need to be able to have the control, which says, when I push this button, I want something to happen. I want that audio to go somewhere. So those 3 things is really what an intercom system is. And what's interesting is that in most systems where you're looking at that, all that audio is moved off into a dedicated system. So you're buying a system from a third party
with its own matrix, its own box that does all this switching. In other words, it's very proprietary.
Right, exactly. It's another very well built, but very proprietary, very closed audio matrix. And all your audio goes in and out of that, but it just does the one thing. It just handles your comms. So by moving that onto the audio over IP network, now everything in our case happens to be LiveWire, and it's all moving around the building. And the great part is that typically intercom systems are low bandwidth, low bit rate audio because it's just communication and backfeeds and Q channels. But now it's all 24-bit, full bandwidth, 48K LiveWire. So I can take my intercom mic and I can send it over air, and it's going to be just as good as that broadcast mic sitting right there in front of you.
You could, yeah. It depends on the quality of the mic, of course. And actually, I'm going to give you a tiny example, but you engineers, you can extrapolate this into how it affects you. I on the weekends I do weather on TV, and I wear an IFB, and it's a traditional intercom system, and I hear the director talking to me, and usually when the director says something like 1 minute, it sounds like. And when I hear the director say 30 seconds, it sounds like, and then when it's time to wrap, I hear the director say something that sounds like, and it would be nice if it was clear, and it's not.
Well, I think your director might be a duck.
So,
is it the Aflac duck?
When you put your intercom over IP using the same protocols that have been used for audio over IP professional for broadcast, you get this clarity. You get 20 kilohertz, as you said. You get this amazing clarity. Now, sure, your limitation may be the microphone, the condenser mic, on a gooseneck or on something like this, or on a belt pack. But there's no audio. You put 20 kilohertz into this belt pack, you get 20 kilohertz at the other end with a full. How many bits of resolution? 24 bit.
24 bits.
So that's like 138 decibels of top to bottom noise. I mean, it's incredible.
But wait, there's more.
Oh,
so the important part isn't necessarily that you're going to take your comms and put them on air,
right?
Because that it's great benefit, but not necessarily going to be something that happens all the time, nor the reason that you should run out and buy a system.
Exactly.
The real benefit now, you might have heard us say there's no proprietary matrix, and that's what's really exciting about this. Is you're able, by using your network switch as the matrix, just as we've been doing with Axia and LiveWire for the past 13 years. There's no central routing matrix for an Axia console. Our Infinity intercom system works exactly the same way. I can take 2 intercom panels, hook them together, and that's my matrix.
Or you can add 200 more intercom panels.
Exactly. And I hook them together on a bigger switch.
Yeah.
The switch becomes the matrix.
Yeah. Or distribute the switches just as you do with any audio over IP.
Precisely.
Type
Precisely. And that's the beauty of going with these types of systems, is you're not locked into proprietary hardware, and everything else gets to be shared amongst your facility. It's really amazing.
So this is on the TELUS website as well, TELUS Infinity, and it's just a whole new idea. And I mean, it's IP end to end, just like anything from Axia would be.
It's the only system in the world that's a true 100% audio over IP intercom system. It's absolutely phenomenal. We're so excited to be able to show it at NAB this year.
We've got one more technology to talk about in just a minute, and let's see if we can do-si-do right here. Okay, Cam, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Kurt. Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
We'll see you soon.
And so Larry Deeds is on his way in here. We're going to do a quick do-si-do before our commercial break. Come on in, Larry. Put some headsets on. Join us here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Larry Deeds from Los Angeles, California. Hi, Larry.
Oh, hello.
Can you hear yourself?
I can.
Good. All right. This IP audio, I think it's going to go somewhere. So it usually works. So Larry's a colleague of mine at the TELUS Alliance, but Larry does something that I don't know much about. And so what we're going to talk about the processing and the file processing in the cloud, or what?
Exactly, file-based processing, and whether that's on premise or in the cloud.
So in radio, we typically don't do much file-based processing, but radio broadcasters are becoming more generic content creators. When you do podcasts, you do long form shows, even little short form shows. We're in radio, we're used to processing things in real time.
Sure.
But that is we just talked to a major producer of podcasts. They produce nothing in real time. It's all recorded and then post-produced.
Yep.
And that apparently is a very common workflow. So, in radio, we kind of know one workflow. It's freaking live. But that's all we know. But in radio and in content creation, and especially in television production, you have workflows that are not exactly live. You have a process that you go through. And the idea is at the end of the day, you get a fantastic, hopefully, finished product, whether it's audio only or video plus audio. And now we have tools available to us for rent, basically, to allow us to tell me what are we talking about? How are we fixing this audio up? How are we making it better?
Well, a variety of different ways. Now, the product is called Audio Tools Server, and it's been an on-premise product for 8 or 9 years now.
Okay.
So providing automated file-based processing at an enterprise level. And what that means is in terms of enterprise level, it just means that it's a cannot fail environment, much like radio people are used to in terms of their on-air broadcast. But it cannot fail. Therefore, it's not something you just run on an average workstation. It's something that runs on a Windows server, Server 2008, or there's a couple of other variants. And the idea is that automates the process of doing that file work so that a bunch of human beings don't have to sit in a room to do things that, quite frankly, their ears are not required for.
Okay.
Whether it's adjusting levels of loudness, which is obviously it's a television term, but the truth of the matter is it all comes down to the end user. They don't want things that leap out in volume when they go from a segue from one piece of content to the next. Running for that volume control to turn something down because it's way too loud. They just don't like that. And in television, of course, we passed what's called in the US is called the CALM Act. And so there are standards set. But regardless of the standard, people want a pleasing experience of audio. They want to be able to listen for longer. And obviously, it's all, we're all ad-based. So therefore, the longer somebody listens to your content, the more money you're going to make because of advertisers. So it's really important to make sure that the end user is happy. So what we do, that's one of the basic things that we do with audio tools is that we adjust the perceived loudness. And we take it to heart because all of our software engineers are also recording engineers. So we love audio. We want to make sure that things sound as good as they possibly can, or that we don't step on it and make it sound worse at the very least.
There is a radio broadcaster in New York City, and if you can say that who it is, that's fine. If not, then that's fine too. But they have Audio Tool Server on premise.
Yes,
and they produce a ton of podcasts at this facility, and it's radio. There's no video involved in any of this.
That's correct.
And I guess not only are they looking for loudness control throughout the length of the podcast, but they also are looking probably to output the podcast in several file formats for several different distribution
Exactly
methods.
right. Yep.
And I know, having been associated with a different podcast network myself, early days, they were doing all that very manually. They had people, typing stuff in to get the formats to go to this distribution network and that distribution network and upload here and upload there, and a lot of people time involved.
Yep.
But you are saying that this automates the process. The modern workflow process of getting a podcast, fixing it up, and then getting it out to its various distribution channels.
Sure enough, yeah, it's NYPR, New York Public Radio. There are 4 stations that they have, if I'm not mistaken.
WNYC, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is one of them.
Okay.
And the idea there was that there's, as you mentioned, there's a lot of different codecs that are being provided. They're forwarding their content to a number of CDNs, content distribution networks, so that they can hit as many different places and have redundancy as possible. And what we did with them was they have a DAVD system that that is in one respect a database. So they hold all of the information about their files there, and basically they were manually encoding files at the end of their process to AAC or HLS or any of the various codecs that you want to provide for the various different networks that want to play your product back. And so and manually people are sitting there entering what's basically known as metadata,
sure, okay,
which is things like for that AAC file, there needs to be artist, title, track number, album. Album. What's an album?
So the metadata fields available might be different for different platforms and even different codecs on the different platforms.
They could be. And so they asked us, is there a way that we can automate this so that we can turn it around faster, so the human beings that are in their facility can use their ears for other things where only a human being can do it anyway. So by automating the drudgery, what we do is we free those people that are working on that drudgery to do things that are more interesting, that their ears really are required for, are more fun for them, and for that organization maybe generates more revenue than the stuff where they sit there and they go, yeah, okay, it's this artist, it's that. And so what we do is we take the information, the ID3v2 metadata that's in their David system already, and that is transmitted to us based upon the files that we're getting and that we're processing. So we then encode the AAC and we insert the metadata in during that encoding process. Also, they send us information about genre, and we can vary the bit rates that these are encoded at based upon the rules that they set in place.
Gotcha.
For classical music, give us more in terms of bits. And for spoken word, well, we don't need quite as much, so give us less. So, well, we've automated that completely, so they can do it all on their own. Cool. Now, that's an on-premise circumstance, and we've been doing on-prem, as we say, for a very long time. Last year at NAB, we announced Audio Tools Cloud on Demand.
Okay.
And that is at the AWS Marketplace. So that's at Amazon Web Services. And the reason that we decided to offer this on-demand service, and we have a number of other services that we offer for the cloud. For instance, if NYPR wanted to transition their on-premise circumstance into the cloud, we can do that right now without any problems at all. But we're looking to help the people that aren't at the level of an NYPR, where I have only a certain number of files every week that I have to process. And I don't want to buy a tool to do that and pay a lot of money for that tool.
Right.
The wonderful part about cloud processing is you only use as much as you need. You only pay for what you use. And you don't have that initial capital investment in servers and software and support contracts and all those various things that you do when you have an enterprise class on-premise system. So the idea is, if you have an AWS Marketplace account, and it's real easy, just go to aws.amazon.com and you can establish an account there. And once you've got that account, then you can go to Audio Tools, and there's a variety of different processes that we offer there. I'm not going to mention which because that's changing. We like to add some new things in here or there. And so the idea is that you can then set up your virtual PC in their cloud. Amazon calls it an EC2. It's an elastic circumstance. So it'll scale out and then scale back. So if you have a rush set of jobs that come in, it will scale up. It's the equivalent of buying another 10 servers. And now, okay, that job's done. Now I'm going to sell those servers off and I don't need them anymore. Except without all of that expense and hassle. And so
without having to list them on Craigslist.
Exactly. Exactly right. And the advantage of things in the cloud, I don't need to tell people about advantages of the cloud, but just in case you're not familiar with it, the idea is you don't have to make those capital investments in servers that are in your facility. You don't have to maintain staff to be able to keep those things running. You don't have to pay for the lighting and the air conditioning, which quite frankly in server rooms, that's a not insubstantial cost to running a business. So all of that goes away. You pay for what you need when you need it. On average, depending upon how much processing you need, how powerful a virtual set of servers you want to build, it's going to vary in cost between roughly $1 and about $3 an hour.
Really?
To process.
That's it?
That's it. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
That is it. And to give you an idea, for instance, doing loudness adjustments so that the program is consistent between a number of pieces of content without stepping on them and making them sound like crap. Oh, can I say that? Then that takes, on average for stereo, it takes about 6 or 7% of real time. So if you had a 100-minute file, that means you're taking 6 or 7 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's dirt cheap.
Yeah.
It's really inexpensive, and there's no difference between what we offer at Amazon Web Services than what we do in our own premises.
You know, I'm beginning to understand this concept, and you know, unless you are at a facility that produces a number of things. I mean, we produce this podcast every week. Yes, I sit down, I type a few things, and it takes a little bit of time, but it only gets uploaded to like 2 different places for me. And I advertise it. But I guess what I'm getting at is, if you are at a radio facility or a television facility or a podcast production facility, and you're producing a number of shows every day or every week, pretty soon the stuff that I just do once a week gets pretty tiring, and you realize that there's just a lot of mechanics involved here. I think of I'm starting to think. I hope I'm not using the wrong words here. I'm thinking of audio tools in the cloud as a mechanical audio Turk.
Okay.
Right? Well, yeah. There's this thing. Mechanical Turk. And anyway, I was thinking of this.
I'm a TV guy. I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
I'm not sure I do either. But we can automate what people have been having to do by hand, and in some ways, maybe in a lot of ways, do a better job of it.
Certainly.
Yeah,
certainly.
Hey, Chris Tobin, we got one more quick word, and then we've got a tip of the week coming up. And I didn't tell Larry about this, so during the commercial break, Larry and I are going to put our heads together and come up with a tip of the week. Chris, before we let Larry go on this topic, you got any questions about this audio file processing in the cloud?
No, we've looked at it at our place. Not your particular product, but some other stuff. Our demands on it is great. But I know Steve and the boys over at New York Public Radio, they were talking about that a while ago, and I remember they're looking at the stuff, and it makes total sense for their distribution and how much they got going on, and it works really well. And a lot of folks have to start thinking about the workflow. I mean, you can't just be a radio station or even TV, but just radio alone. And podcasting or streaming, whatever you want to call it, or content on demand, requires workflow understanding that can be streamlined, not for the sake of saving money, but for the sake of creating quality products, so that the ones creating it can go on to do more stuff, so that there's always something new in the pipeline. That's the way to look at it. And that's what I'm hoping people don't think it's just to save money. Saving money is a byproduct. It comes out of the efficiencies you create, but don't go in looking for that alone.
Good advice. Good advice.
Absolutely.
All right. Hey, we got your tip of the week coming up, as well as Larry Deed's tip of the week. He didn't know we had to come up with one. Well, we're going to do that.
Oops.
But hey, I've got a new message you haven't heard yet from my buddy Cornelius Gould. Roll it.
You need an audio processor. And that's when my ears perked up. Oh, what? Tell me about this. And it goes, I don't know, it's a box that splits the audio into 3 bands and puts them all back together. It basically makes a radio station sound louder than it really is. At least that's what my friend says. That sounds exactly like what I need. It needs more sparkle. It needs more of this. I need more thump. There's a control that if you turn up thump, okay, it's programmed to turn this, tune that, tune this by that much, tune that by that much, tune this over here by this much, and diddle these other controls that normally would be Corny only access controls to give you more thump. But along the way, Frank goes, Corny, this dynamic EQ, it's amazing. I think this may have some application for audio processing. Play with it. Now, the point of a bass clipper is to try to keep the bass from creating high-frequency intermod distortion on the main clipper. Each of the bands can hone in on their individual spectrum, the way they should. you can build up nice RMS loudness without having to worry about also loading onto them the EQ balance. Basically, what I hear and what other people hear is that the audio takes on, it's like taking a 2D picture and making it 3D. On the surface, that sounds like weird, but the proof is in what you hear on the air.
So that is a preview of the 90-minute interview that we did with Cornelius Gould. I know it's 90 minutes. If you've got 90 minutes, you want to set it aside, play it in the background, or do it second screen, or be right on it. Either way, you're going to learn a lot from Cornelius Gould about audio processing and how what he's dreamed about all his life has gone into the audio processors that he's creating. Really cool. All right, it's time for our tip of the week. Chris Tobin, have you got something for us?
Alrighty. Well, this past week, actually last couple of weeks, I've been helping out a friend with his business and some projects involving broadcast. And one thing that we came across, he's from a different part of the engineering world of broadcast. So he's more accustomed to groups of people having things at fingertips. Now he's more independent. It's not the same way. So as I mentioned in an earlier episode, these little black bags that come with your headphones, and if you don't use them, you just toss them in a drawer somewhere. Time to think about when you're doing projects. And it's very important. You're working in a studio. What is the common thing in the studio that you need to be checking? Cable polarity, continuity. Make sure you have one of those boxes to check that. Second, what are you also doing? The little greenie, as we all know by your affectionate name, or 1/8 inch blade straight edge screwdriver. And that's two things that recently I carried with my little kit. And you could use a bag, use a plastic box from an old GLIP hard drive, take out the foam and make yourself a little carry case. And turns out that good thing I did that, because I also brought it with me in my little bag with XLR connectors to pigtails, XLR connector to, headphone 1/4 inch to alligator clip and pigtails. Why? Because we had to fix a problem with it was a Barracks decoder, Extremer. The Barracks was working just fine. The audio coming out from the source was in trouble, but nobody believed what was going on. So what did I have? An RCA male, 2 males, left and right, summed together to an XLR male. Why? Take the output of the Barracks, which we're assuming is left-right stereo, sum it. If it's proper, it'll add to mono into our little box with a speaker and test the audio. Funny thing about that, it was out of phase at the studio. We heard nothing until you took out one RCA plug and restored. Oh, look, there's audio. Quick demonstration. The problem was not at the Barracks box of the transmitter. It was at the source end. But these are the little things you overlook. So build a little bag.
Did we lose Chris? I guess we did. Chris, I'm sorry, we lost your audio there.
No,
you're back.
I know what happened. Yeah, I shouldn't have moved my hand. Sorry, I'm not sure you lost me, but I'm just saying.
Too much bag shaking.
Make a kit. Oh, too much bag shaking. Oh, all right, fine. Put together a little diagnostic kit. XLR to pigtails, headphone jacks. Like I said, the Barracks box was not the fault of the transmitter. It was at the studio site. So I drove to a transmitter site only to determine problems at the other end. So these are the things you got to put together. Keep the kit in the desk drawer at the office or at the transmitter. This way, if somebody calls and says there's a problem in the studio, you can go in, boop, 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 up, there it is. I know what exactly it is. And you're not pulling your hair out, opening up the console, or in the case of an audio over IP infrastructure, unplugging switches randomly to figure out what's going on. Make sure you have all the necessary test tools.
I have a feeling that as an engineer, Chris, if you would just go around with me, you would make me so much more efficient, because I'm always looking for something I don't have. Chris, do you have a blah, 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 blah? Oh, yeah, I got that right here. No matter what I need, Chris has got it in a bag.
But I've been in so many situations where I've been burned by that, not having. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
And I also have worked, thankfully, I've had a chance to work with some companies over the years of my career where they were in mission critical operations. They were not in broadcast. It was more in law enforcement, public safety, and that kind of stuff. And those guys, when I worked, shadowed them, and I said, so what are you doing as a technical services division? Here's what we do. Here's why we do it. And it's very important. We only have one chance at it, and it's life safety involved. So we have to make sure it's done right. Oh, so from that experience, I realized having these little kits made total sense. And what I do is if I have contract work with various sites, I have little kits I leave at the site. So I know if I get called and I'm at a party and I got to go to the site afterwards, I don't have to run home and grab a bag. I know it's there already. So these are little things you learn and you sort of pre-plan. It's not by accident. It's always by choice. So this is what you have to remember.
Like I said, Chris, if I could just bring you along with me, I'd be so much better off. Just so organized, dude. Yeah, for a small fee. Yeah, I can't afford you. All right, that's a good tip. Larry actually has a tip as well, and you and I came across this tip at the same time this week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty exciting.
We're in Cleveland, and I hear Cleveland rocks, by the way. And one of our partners, Broadcast Bionics, they're out of London in the UK, and they showed us a new product. I have to admit that I'm not clear on, is it out? I know that they'll be really showing it broadly to the world at NAB, and it revolutionizes the way we do recording, whether it's radio or television or whatever it is. And it is an intelligent system. It's the analogy that I would have to use is look at all those smart speakers out there, like Alexa and various other things that are similar to that. And the idea is that it records everything that you're doing. It records all of the telemetry of your Axia console.
Oh, so when you move this fader up and down, it records that, and it records the voice that's on there, and it records the voice that's on there, and the fader position, and the on-off, and it records this voice all separately.
All separately, and it also does automatic transcriptions of everything that you're saying.
Yes.
So that it becomes a written document. That document can then be placed on your website and your social media feeds. It also has interfacing to that social media. All of this is time-stamped. So you can find out what people are saying on social media about your show during the period of time that your show is going on. And if you said something particularly funny 7 minutes in, you can actually see 7 minutes in on that time code stamp. You can look and see the kind of reactions that your audience has to the thing that you're saying. So it gives that interactivity to you immediately. The thing that's just, it sounds like it's Space Odyssey. It really does. You walk into the room. It also does facial recognition, by the way. So I walk into the room. It immediately sees that it's me, and it sets everything up for me.
It's Larry. Turn the mic off.
Turn the mic off. Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. And so I sit down and I'm recording. Let's just say, for instance, it's my podcast. I'm recording. This podcast is going out live. I'm recording this. And, in the world that we live in now, I have a mix, and that's all I have. Well, what happens if I want to repurpose the music and put something else in? Let's say that, today I'm doing a country show and tomorrow I'm doing a jazz show, in terms of just the stingers and the various other music that's in it. Or I've got new sets of advertisers and I need to take the commercials out that I did that time then and now insert new commercials. Well, the idea, and what do I do when all I've got is a 2-track mix? Well, there's nothing I can do when I got a 2-track mix.
Right.
That's just
you've
not
lost
possible.
all the information. You've lost all the things that made it possible to do something with it.
So all of these constituent parts being recorded, and it's what they call internet fit radio. And the idea being, the internet is nothing more than a bunch of documents that are searchable with links. At its heart, that's what it is. So it's going to do camera switching for you in the studio. It's going to, and it's also recording things 6 seconds and then throwing them away. So if you start to open a mic up, it actually was recording 3 seconds before you opened up that mic. So if you kind of screwed up and didn't hit the post, it will help you with that.
So what you're talking about is what is called the multi-object recorder. And we can do a whole show on this with Dan McCullough, but we got to go. But if you go to the website and read about this really cool tech, it's bionics.co.uk. It's a British website, bionics.co.uk, and read about Broadcast Bionics. And it only works with audio over IP. And so that's because that's where, like we said, all the stuff is on the wire. Hey, folks, we got to go. I'm sorry, I didn't realize how much time slipped away. Chris Tobin, thank you for being with us. Suncast, thank you for producing our show. Larry, thank you for being with us as well.
Certainly, of course.
And I want to thank our local producer here, Brian Shea. He was our talent wrangler today, and he our guest wrangler, and he got all our guests wrangled. So
I feel wrangled.
Thanks again, Suncast, for producing the show, and thanks to Andrew Zarian, founder of the GFQ Network. I'm Kirk Harnack. Be sure you visit our advertisers. They help keep the show going. I appreciate you, and we'll see you next week with another amazing show, I promise you, on This Week in Radio Tech. Bye-bye.